There will be no swimming, no people. Along several beaches in Florida, crowds of tourists are being driven away by waves of putrid slime oozing ashore.
Florida is often seen as a sunny paradise with beaches, tourism, and fun cities. But the truth is very different from what many people believe. Florida isn't what you think. America's most dangerous state, and nobody wants to talk about, shows a hidden side of the state that most visitors never see. From rising crime concerns to natural dangers and unexpected risks, there is more going on behind the bright image. Why does this state have such a shocking reputation? What is really happening behind the tourism image? Join us as we uncover the truth. Natural wonders beneath the surface. The Everglades is not a still or lifeless swamp. It is actually a slow-moving river that stretches nearly 60 miles wide, while remaining only inches deep in many places. This enormous river flows gently over a limestone shelf, moving only a few feet each day. As the water slowly travels through endless fields of sawgrass, it creates one of the most unique natural water systems on Earth. This slow-motion hydrological engine filters and shapes the land in a way found nowhere else in the world. Its quiet movement hides an incredible level of power and importance beneath the surface. Porter Sink, known as the Disappearing Lake, is one of Florida's strangest natural events. Located near Tallahassee, Lake Jackson contains what seems like a giant natural drain plug at its center. This opening is called Porter Sink. From time to time, pressure changes deep inside the underground aquifer force the sinkhole to suddenly open. When this happens, the massive lake begins to drain rapidly into the underground void below. In only a few days, the water can completely disappear, making the enormous lake look like an empty bathtub. Thousands of fish become stranded across wide mudflats after the water vanishes. Eventually, sediment naturally seals the opening again, allowing the lake to slowly refill over time. Another hidden geological feature is the Cody Escarpment, an invisible underground boundary that divides Florida into two very different regions. North of this line, thick layers of clay prevent surface water from easily sinking underground. South of the boundary, porous limestone lies exposed much closer to the surface. When rivers cross this geological line, the change becomes dramatic. Water suddenly crashes downward into the earth, creating huge underground waterfalls hidden beneath the surface. Recent scientific dye tracing studies surprised researchers by showing just how fast these underground water systems move. Instead of flowing slowly, the hidden waterways can travel for miles within only a few hours through dark subterranean passages beneath the state. Alum Bluff completely challenges Florida's reputation as a flat land filled only with beaches and wetlands. Along the Apalachicola River, towering cliffs rise more than 135 feet directly above the water. These steep rock walls form one of the most striking hidden landscapes in the state. Geologists consider Alum Bluff extremely valuable because the exposed cliffs reveal several separate layers of geological history. Each layer preserves important remains from ancient environments that existed thousands of years ago. Scientists have discovered Ice Age plant fossils, ancient palm leaves, and prehistoric shark teeth trapped within the old clay walls. These preserved layers provide a rare window into Florida's distant prehistoric past. The Steinhatchee River Chasm has also revealed remarkable discoveries hidden beneath the water. Recent deep diving expeditions explored a newly discovered underwater sinkhole located in the Steinhatchee riverbed. Inside this dark chasm, researchers uncovered an enormous prehistoric time capsule filled with ancient fossils. Scuba divers recovered more than 550 well-preserved remains dating back nearly 500,000 years. Among the discoveries were teeth from giant prehistoric horses, armor plates from huge extinct armadillos, and jawbones belonging to massive ground sloths that once grew as large as elephants. Many of these animals likely fell into the deep chasm during the Pleistocene epoch, where their remains stayed protected for hundreds of thousands of years beneath the earth. Southern Florida is also home to one of the rarest wildlife overlaps anywhere on the planet. It is the only place in the world where alligators and crocodiles naturally live side by side in the same environment. Alligators are freshwater reptiles, while crocodiles are normally connected to saltwater habitats. Yet in the brackish coastal mangrove regions of southern Florida, both ancient reptile species share the same muddy banks and waterways. This creates a rare prehistoric coexistence between two powerful predators that evolved along separate paths millions of years ago. Their shared habitat feels like a surviving piece of Earth's distant past, where ancient reptilian lineages continue living together in a delicate balance. Florida's hidden landscapes reveal a world far more mysterious and complex than many people imagine. Beneath its rivers, wetlands, and forests lies a constantly changing system of underground waterways, disappearing lakes, ancient fossil beds, and prehistoric wildlife habitats. From the slow-moving Everglades to the dark underwater chasms filled with ancient remains, these natural wonders show that Florida holds some of the most extraordinary geological secrets in North America. Hidden world beneath the surface. Beneath Florida's subtropical cities and coastal developments lies a massive underground world that most people never see. Hidden deep below the surface is a 100,000 square mile layer of water-filled limestone resting under enormous pressure. This giant underground reservoir holds drinking water for millions of people and also helps support the state's fragile land structure. Without it, Florida's flat landscape would be far more vulnerable to sinking toward the Atlantic Ocean. This dark subterranean ocean remains completely invisible from above, yet it plays one of the most important roles in the state's survival. The pressurized aquifer feeds Florida's famous artesian springs, giving the state the highest concentration of first-magnitude springs anywhere on Earth. Each of these powerful springs releases more than 64 million gallons of crystal-clear water every single day. The water moves naturally through layers of rock that filter it over long distances, creating remarkable clarity. In many springs, the water is so transparent that boats floating above appear to hover in mid-air because their shadows can be seen sharply on the bottom. Florida's beauty also hides serious geological danger. The entire peninsula rests on calcium carbonate bedrock that slowly dissolves over time. This weak underground foundation makes the state extremely vulnerable to sinkholes. When droughts lower the water levels, or heavy human consumption reduces pressure inside the aquifer, the sandy ground above can suddenly collapse. Homes, roads, and highways can disappear within moments as the earth opens into deep water-filled cavities below the surface. The state also preserves incredible secrets from the distant past. Florida's underwater chemistry is rich in calcium, which slows decay and protects ancient remains. Riverbeds across the state have become natural paleontological vaults from the Ice Age. Divers exploring these dark waters regularly recover perfectly preserved fossils, including mammoth jaws, saber-toothed claws, and massive megalodon teeth. Many of these ancient remains have stayed in remarkable condition for tens of thousands of years because the mineral-rich environment protected them exactly where they originally sank. Florida's atmosphere creates another powerful natural force. The state is known as the lightning capital of the United States, receiving more than 1 million ground strikes every year. Its narrow peninsula shape plays a major role in this extreme weather pattern. The intense sun rapidly heats the land, causing hot air to rise into the atmosphere. At the same time, cooler sea breezes filled with moisture move inward from both coasts. When these air masses collide, they create violent afternoon thunderstorms that erupt with explosive energy on a near-daily basis. Off Florida's coast, history still rises from the ocean floor. The powerful Gulf Stream current once served as a major route for Spanish treasure fleets carrying gold and riches from the New World. However, dangerous reefs and devastating hurricanes turned these waters into a graveyard for countless ships. Even today, strong tropical storms can uncover pieces of that lost history. After severe weather passes through, centuries-old gold coins and silver bars sometimes wash directly onto public beaches along the Treasure Coast. Far to the south, one of Florida's greatest engineering achievements stretches across open water. The 113-mile overseas highway connects the Florida Keys using 42 concrete bridges built directly above the ocean. Driving across the famous 7-mile bridge creates a surreal experience. Surrounded by endless blue water on every side, travelers cross the narrow strip of concrete, feeling completely isolated between sea and sky. Wonders beneath the swamps. And then Mangroves. Rising sea levels and powerful droughts are pushing heavy, salty Gulf water deep inland into Florida's freshwater tidal rivers. As the salt spreads farther across the land, it creates serious damage to the environment. Ancient bald cypress and cedar trees are extremely sensitive to salt water, and they cannot survive when salinity levels rise. Because of this, huge stretches of forest have died at the same time. What remains is a haunting wilderness filled with pale white tree trunks standing silently in dark swamp water. These dead forests create one of the strangest and most unforgettable sights in Florida. Another hidden wonder exists inside Ocala's famous Silver River. This peaceful river is home to hundreds of wild rhesus macaque monkeys that roam freely through the forest. Their story began during the 1930s when an eccentric tour boat captain released the monkeys onto an isolated island in the river. People believed the animals would stay trapped there, but the monkeys shocked everyone almost immediately. They swam across the river, escaped the island, and adapted perfectly to the wild southern landscape. Today, they continue living freely in the forests surrounding the river, creating one of Florida's most unusual wildlife stories. Northern Florida also hides a surprising underground world that completely challenges the state's reputation for being flat, wet, and swampy. Beneath the surface lies the Florida Caverns, a dry and air-filled cave network unlike anything most people expect to find in the state. While the ground above can reach temperatures of 95 degrees, the caves remain cool and comfortable at 65 degrees all year long. Inside the caverns are incredible natural formations created over thousands of years. Towering stalagmites rise from the cave floors, while delicate limestone draperies hang from the ceilings like frozen curtains. The strange shapes and silent atmosphere give the caves an almost alien appearance. Another mystery lies beneath the calm waters of Weeki Wachee Spring. On the surface, the spring appears peaceful and beautiful, but below it hides an enormous underwater abyss. Every single day, 150 million gallons of high-pressure water explode upward from deep underground. Specialized dive teams have explored this dangerous underwater world for years. They have mapped miles of dark underwater tunnels stretching far below the surface. Divers have already descended more than 400 feet into the cavern system, yet the true ending of the tunnels has never been found. Even today, much of the system remains completely unexplored. Florida also protects a few surviving giants from an ancient natural world. During the 19th century, logging destroyed most of the state's old-growth forests. However, some isolated bald cypress trees manage to survive in remote swamps such as Fakahatchee Strand. These enormous trees are among the oldest living organisms in the region. Some measure 15 feet in diameter and have lived for more than 2,000 years. These ancient giants were already mature trees during the height of the Roman Empire. Standing beside them feels like looking directly into the distant past of the natural world. One of Florida's most famous legends is connected to the myth of the Fountain of Youth. According to stories shared by the indigenous Taino people, there was a magical spring capable of curing diseases and restoring youth. Inspired by these stories, Spanish conquistador Ponce de Leon arrived in St. Augustine in 1513 while searching for the legendary waters. Although the magical fountain itself was never real, the journey led to the discovery of Florida's extraordinary artesian water systems. These pure underground water networks later became extremely important and helped shape future exploration around the world. Florida's geography also makes the state very unusual compared to the rest of America. With an average elevation of only 100 feet and a highest point of just 345 feet, Florida is the flattest state in the country. Because there are no mountains or large hills to block storms, hurricane winds can move across the peninsula without interruption. The flat landscape also allows rising seawater to travel miles inland through canals and waterways, increasing the danger during major storms and floods. Hidden across this flat landscape are tens of thousands of lakes formed over thousands of years. Many of them were created when underground limestone collapsed, forming circular sinkholes that later filled with water. Florida contains around 30,000 hidden lakes spread across the state. The largest is Lake Okeechobee, which covers 730 square miles. The lake is so enormous that the far shoreline disappears beyond the horizon, making it look almost like an ocean. Yet despite its massive size, Lake Okeechobee remains surprisingly shallow, with an average depth of only 9 feet. Natural wonders and strange secrets. Floating islands can be seen moving across the lakes of central Florida. They drift slowly like quiet ghost ships guided by the wind. These floating pieces are formed when decomposing organic peat builds up on the lake floors. As this material breaks down, it traps escaping gases such as methane and carbon dioxide. Over time, pressure from these gases causes backyard-sized sections of mud to break away from the bottom. These sections rise to the surface and begin to float. Once on the water, they can even support life, allowing bushes and trees to grow on top of them, making them look like living floating land. The snail kite is a rare and highly endangered bird of prey found in Florida. This bird is a strong example of extreme adaptation. It survives by eating only one main food source, the native Florida apple snail. Over time, the snail kite has evolved a very specialized beak. Its beak is sharply curved, thin, and needle-like, almost surgical in shape. This design allows it to carefully extract the snail from its spiral shell without damaging the meat inside. Because of this extreme dependence, the survival of the snail kite is directly linked to water levels in the Everglades, since those conditions affect the apple snail population. The enigma of Coral Castle is one of Florida's most unusual human-made mysteries. Between the years 1923 and 1951, a small man from Latvia, weighing about 100 pounds, secretly built a massive limestone structure. The total weight of the structure is estimated at about 1,100 tons, made from oolitic limestone. He worked alone, mostly at night, and used simple homemade tools and old car parts. Some of the blocks he moved were said to weigh twice as much as those used in the Great Pyramid. He never fully explained his methods and claimed that he had discovered the secrets of anti-gravity, adding to the mystery of how the structure was built. During the Second World War, the United States military developed what are known as the swamp airfields in Florida. More than 200 airfields were created across the state. Florida's flat and open land made it ideal for training combat pilots. The conditions allowed for stable flying throughout the year. After the war ended, these large concrete runways did not disappear. Instead, they became the foundation for modern transportation systems. Many of them were later transformed into the layout of international airports and major highways in cities such as Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville, shaping how travel works in these regions today. The Burmese invasion refers to an ecological event that began after Hurricane Andrew in 1992. The storm destroyed exotic breeding facilities, which accidentally released thousands of Burmese pythons into the Everglades. These snakes are powerful apex predators that can grow up to 18 feet long and weigh around 200 pounds. Once released, they spread through the ecosystem and caused major disruption. They have reduced native mammal populations by about 90%. These pythons are also known for intense and long predatory struggles, sometimes engaging in extended battles with native alligators. Bioluminescence is another striking natural feature found in Florida, especially in the Indian River Lagoon. During hot summer nights, the water can suddenly glow with a bright neon blue light. This glowing effect is created by billions of microscopic organisms called dinoflagellates. These organisms have the ability to produce light naturally. When the water is disturbed, even by a fish swimming or a kayak paddle moving through it, the movement triggers a chemical reaction. This reaction converts motion into visible cold light, creating a glowing trail that spreads across the dark water surface. Mangroves are important coastal trees that grow in salty ocean water. Red mangroves are especially adapted to survive in harsh coastal environments. They have unique arched aerial roots that look like spider legs. These roots lift the trees above crashing waves and unstable ground. Mangroves do more than just survive in salt water. They also help build land over time. Their dense root systems trap floating debris and sediment carried by water. As this material collects, it slowly forms new solid and fertile soil. In this way, mangroves expand the edge of the land and help shape coastlines. Sanibel Island has a unique shape compared to most barrier islands. Instead of running north to south, it stretches from east to west in a curved crescent form. This special orientation allows it to act like a natural underwater scoop. It perfectly captures incoming Caribbean currents. These currents carry millions of seashells toward the shore. As a result, large amounts of shells are deposited along the beaches. Over time, this creates a shoreline made almost entirely of unbroken calcified shells, forming a beach that looks like it is covered in natural armor. These natural systems and human-made structures show how Florida contains both scientific wonders and historical mysteries. Each feature, such from floating islands to glowing waters and engineered landscapes, connects land, water, animals, and human activity in complex and fascinating ways. Secret wonders beneath land and sea. Without protective body fat, the 1,000-pound West Indian manatee faces deadly cold stress whenever ocean temperatures fall below 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Every winter, hundreds of these peaceful sea cows leave the colder coastal waters and travel inland toward Florida's natural springs. These aquifer-fed artesian springs remain close to 72 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year, creating a safe refuge during the cold season. The manatees gather closely together inside the warm spring water, using these natural systems like giant thermal heating blankets that protect them from dangerous winter temperatures. Florida is also home to one of the world's most unusual beaches. The famous sands of Siesta Key Beach remain cool to the touch, even during blazing 100-degree summer days. The beach shines with bright white sand made from 99% pure quartz crystal. This quartz did not begin in Florida. It originally came from the ancient Appalachian Mountains millions of years ago. Powerful rivers slowly carried the tiny crystal particles southward over an enormous stretch of time. Ocean currents later polished the grains into the smooth, soft sand seen today. The result is a beach with brilliant white shores that reflect sunlight instead of absorbing heat. Deep beneath Florida lies another surprising secret connected to ancient Earth history. Scientists drilling through miles of limestone discovered that the state's basement rock does not match the rock found beneath the rest of North America. Millions of years ago, the supercontinent Pangaea broke apart in a violent geological process. During this separation, a massive piece of the African tectonic plate became trapped and separated from the area near modern Morocco. Instead of drifting away completely, the chunk remained attached and eventually became permanently welded beneath Florida. Even today, the state still carries this hidden geological connection to Africa far below its surface. Every summer, Florida experiences another remarkable link to Africa through the atmosphere itself. Strong tropical winds lift millions of tons of mineral-rich dust from the deserts of North Africa and carry it across 5,000 miles of the Atlantic Ocean. This giant cloud of Saharan dust travels directly over Florida each year. The warm, dry air high in the atmosphere plays an important role in weather patterns by reducing the formation of hurricanes for weeks at a time. The dust also changes the appearance of the sky during sunset. As sunlight passes through the particles in the atmosphere, the evening sky often glows with fiery shades of orange and deep neon colors that stretch across the horizon. Running along the center of Florida is a landscape many people would never expect to find inside a humid subtropical state. The Florida scrub is a dry and harsh environment filled with bright sand dunes, cacti, and drought-resistant vegetation. Millions of years ago, rising sea levels covered much of the Florida peninsula underwater. Only the higher ridges remained above the ocean surface, forming isolated tropical islands surrounded by shallow seas. Over time, the sea retreated, but these ancient dunes stayed behind. Today, they remain stranded far inland, preserving the remains of a forgotten island environment inside modern Florida. Long before the arrival of Spanish explorers, the southwest coast of Florida was controlled by the powerful Calusa Kingdom. Unlike many other ancient civilizations, the Calusa did not depend on farming for survival. Instead, they built their society around the rich marine life found in the coastal estuaries. Fish, shellfish, and other ocean resources provided enormous wealth and supported large populations. Over generations, the Calusa collected billions of discarded oyster and conch shells. They used these shells to create giant artificial islands, canals, and ceremonial mounds rising nearly 30 feet high. Even after centuries of tropical storms and erosion, many of these structures still remain standing today. Another natural wonder flows through northern Florida in the form of the legendary Suwannee River. This Blackwater river appears almost like a giant stream of freshly brewed black tea because of its deep amber color. The unusual coloring comes from natural organic chemistry inside the surrounding wetlands. In the Okefenokee swamp, decaying pine needles and cypress roots release large amounts of tannins into the water. These tannins stain the river with a dark color while also increasing its acidity. As the Suwannee River moves southward, the dark water cuts through striking white limestone cliffs, creating one of Florida's most dramatic natural landscapes. The hidden natural systems. The wide Santa Fe River flows until it reaches a solid rock wall and then completely disappears underground. At this point, the river does not simply slow down or split. It drops into the earth through a swirling underground whirlpool. From there, the full river continues its journey completely hidden beneath the surface. It travels through a flooded limestone cavern system for a continuous distance of about 3 miles. After moving unseen through this underground path, the river then rises back up to the surface with force at a place known as river rise. This process shows a river that exists both above and below ground in a connected natural system, moving through hidden rock channels before reappearing again. The pine flatwoods represent a wide open wilderness filled with tall longleaf pine trees and thick saw palmetto bushes. This environment is described as a pyrogenic ecosystem, which means it is naturally shaped and maintained by fire. In this landscape, fire is not an accident that destroys everything permanently. Instead, it is a repeated and expected natural process that helps the system stay balanced. During summer, lightning storms often trigger wildfires across the flatwoods. These fires help remove invasive hardwood plants that would otherwise take over the area. They also burn away old pine needles and plant material, turning them into nutrient-rich ash that returns to the soil. This ash helps feed future plant growth. The native longleaf pines are adapted to survive in these conditions. They have fire-resistant bark that protects their inner structure from heat. They also have underground stems that allow them to regrow even after surface fire passes through. Over time, this cycle of burning and regrowth shapes a forest that is built to live with fire rather than avoid it. Far offshore in the Gulf waters near St. Petersburg lies a deep underwater formation known as the Green Banana. This feature is described as a massive blue hole located miles away from the coast. It drops sharply into the ocean floor to a depth of more than 425 feet. Unlike the flat sandy seabed that surrounds it, this blue hole stands out as a deep vertical sink into the earth. It functions as a unique and isolated environment filled with marine activity. At its core, a limestone cavern system beneath the seabed continuously releases nutrient-rich fresh water from the aquifer below into the surrounding saltwater ocean. This constant movement of water creates a strong biological attraction point in the deep sea. Because of this nutrient flow, the area becomes a gathering place for different forms of marine life. Endangered sea turtles, large manta rays, and groups of sharks are drawn into this deep structure. The result is a concentrated vertical zone of marine biodiversity in an otherwise open and relatively flat ocean environment. Along the coastal waters, a recurring natural event known as red tide appears every few years. During these events, the ocean water changes color and takes on a rusty brick red appearance. This change is caused by a large natural increase in a microscopic marine algae called Carenia brevis. When this algae blooms in very high numbers, it produces a strong natural toxin known as toxin. This toxin affects marine life by interfering with their nervous systems and can lead to paralysis in affected organisms. As waves move through the water, they break and spread tiny particles of this toxin into the air. This process creates an aerosolized form of the poison that can travel inland. When carried by wind, it can cause strong respiratory irritation in humans, even at locations far from the shoreline. This makes red tide not only a marine event, but also a coastal air quality concern during active blooms. These natural systems raise many questions about Florida's hidden environments and coastal mysteries. Would you ever choose to put on a scuba tank and descend into a completely dark and flooded Florida sinkhole, knowing that unknown dangers such as a prehistoric alligator or the remains of an ancient Ice Age animal could be waiting in the darkness? Or would you prefer to remain safely on the warm, familiar sands of a resort beach instead? There is also ongoing curiosity about the state's coastal history. Some people wonder if there are still valuable Spanish treasure fleets worth millions of dollars hidden beneath the coastal waters, possibly undiscovered or deliberately kept secret. Others question whether the entire Treasure Coast region has already been fully explored and emptied of such finds. These ideas continue to spark discussion and speculation about what may still remain hidden beneath Florida's waters and coastline. What do you think about this dangerous state? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before you go, be sure to click on the video shown on your screen.